And
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Aaron and Jamie, for having me. Hello, everybody. My name is Austin. I work for the University of San Diego, and you guessed it, San Diego, California. I am our admission communication supervisor. So pretty much that's just a fancy way of saying that if you get any emails from USD with typos in them, that means that I did not do my job well enough. So I'm all about our marketing, communication, and how we talk about who we are as a university. So I'm really excited to talk to you today about Common Application, which is what we rely on to get to know who you all are personally. I also spent my first 3 or 4 years here at USD as an admission counselor. So I was the one who read all of our applications from various spots throughout the United States. So if y'all have unique questions about, that subject that you're thinking about for your essay or whatever it is, I'm all ears and would love to kind of work through that with you. But today we're going to start with a little bit more of an actual slide deck. So you should be able to see the common application tips and guidelines for fall 2022, because I understand that most, if not all of you, are seniors. So actually, can we do like a little bit of engagement here? If you can, use the reaction feature to just give me like the reaction that describes how senior year is going. Okay, so maybe it's the smiley face or the clap. Anybody out there? How are we feeling about our senior year? Okay, we got a little celebration hat from Patricia. Thumbs up from Reese. I like that. Let's see someone with a smiley face and a little sweat mark. I feel you, Ashley. Yes, Kelly and Grayson, Isabel. Okay. These are mostly good. I'm going to say I think I have a little bit of a skewed answer because I don't know that there are any like really bad reactions that you can put on Zoom. So good to know everything's going well with you all. Yes, I feel like senior year is a lot, right? Like there's a lot of things to be thinking about, and even returning back from remote learning and trying to figure out this whole college thing. So just want to level with you there that today is going to be a lot of information, but it's meant to help make it easier. So if there are parts where we're confused or we just need, a minute to pause and digest, let me know. This is all about making this as digestible as possible to you. So with that, I'm going to move my screen of you all to this computer. So if I'm looking over here, I'm actually looking at you, I promise. But I want to talk to you a little bit about what we look for in the Common Application. So yes, first of all, I got to start with just the fact that you all have so much going on. I already mentioned that, but we know senior year has so many projects and papers that are going. You'll get through, I big promise. Let's dig in deep though and talk a little bit about what it looks like on the Common Application website. So as you all are probably aware that when you go to apply.commonapp.org, you can actually log in. And we always I'm going to use tips throughout this entire presentation of things that I think you should remember in each. So first of all, you'll see the 2 tabs of first year students and transfer students. Most of you would be applying as first year student. We want to make sure that you know your deadline, right? Ensure that you are very aware of when things are due, which documents are due, which ones you're submitting, which your counselors are submitting for you. And then this is my biggest thing. So this is selfishly from like the marketing point of view, because all I do is send you all a bunch of emails, right? I'm like, hey, learn about our student Vivian and how she interacts with our beautiful campus. And I send it to the email address that you use for this. So use a good email address to log in, because your email address will become your username and Common App's primary method of sending you updates and reminders. That's so important, okay? So use an email that you're going to check. This is also the way that if we're missing something as a school, like at USD, if we're missing your transcripts, I'm going to email you and say, hey, Austin, we're missing this. And if you don't respond, we're a little confused. Maybe that's just because you haven't checked your email that you used as a login. So use one that you will continue to monitor. In addition to that, when you log in, you will see the dashboard here. So you can see across the top dashboard, my colleges, Common App, College Trick, Financial Aid, Resources, kind of all these different subsections. And you'll be able to select specific schools that you might be interested in applying to. So we've picked University of San Diego, Virginia Tech's up there, and you can see the different deadlines and where you're at in your application stage. You can also sort by various functions here on the right side. So alphabetically by college name, it might be by deadline. So make sure you're monitoring this, but it's meant to make it really simple for you and have it all in one place so that you can keep track of all of those deadlines and submission dates that we mentioned earlier. Now, certain schools on this application will require unique documents and unique writing supplements. So I'm using University of San Diego as an example here. You'll see that on your dashboard, when you let USD extend out and take the full page, we have different subtopics and sub items. So common application shows it's in progress. You've started your questions. You also have maybe reached out to your recommenders and done your FERPA agreement. So all of these are pieces that you'll need to be looking at to make sure they're in progress and completed by our deadline of December 15th. And then I'm also highlighting here the additional questions that we require. These are what we call member questions. Specific schools like USD will say, hey, you wrote your general common application essay. This is the 650-word essay that you're going to send to any school you're applying to. But we have 2 more required college questions or member questions. And these deal with exactly who we are as a university. So Virginia Tech might ask one, USD might ask some, Loyola Marymount might ask others, but it's your way of really demonstrating you've done research and you know why you fit at that particular school. So take your time with those. Don't overlook those member questions and college questions, and note that you'll be able to keep track of them right there. It also show your prompts so you can know exactly what you're responding to. Now, with the profile, which is our tip number 2, these are places where you tell us more about who you are. So you create a profile just like, Instagram or whatever it is. And so make sure you enter your name exactly as it appears on your official documents, like your birth certificate, your passport. This is particularly relevant for folks who might have a hyphenated last name or 2 last names without a hyphen, or maybe, 2 first names, whatever it looks like. We want to make sure that we are getting that exactly right, because if the Common App profile and some of the documents that you submit to us don't align perfectly, it makes it really confusing for us to get them to the right application. So make it as clear as possible by using the official name on your birth certificate or passport page. And then as you start filling it out, the cool thing about the Common App is they kind of like allow more questions to populate based on your previous response. So if you indicate that you're applying for fall 2022, one will pop down that says, okay, when are you applying? Regular decision, early action, early decision, and kind of take you step by step through there. So it's very user-friendly and meant to give us a lot of information about you. You'll also see these various pieces. So personal information, a little bit about your address. We always recommend that if you're thinking about your address, make sure you can submit multiple addresses, but you'll be able to mark the one that's your primary that we can send, maybe your admitted packet to. So be sure to be really careful with those. You'll be able to add some more information in about contacts, about who you are and how you identify with demographics. We'll also ask about citizenship, any extra languages you speak too. So maybe you're fluent in a 2nd or 3rd language and want us to tell you that. We're going to make sure that we're taking that into account as well. Let's see, I also wanted to talk about geography. So this is good because if you've moved internationally as well, maybe during high school or earlier, we're going to want to see that global experience you have, so you can put it there. And then of course, if you are eligible for a fee waiver, maybe provided from College Board, ACT, or any other organization, you can indicate it there, and then schools might request that from you on a case-by-case basis. So really, this is the basic building blocks of your profile. Just make sure you're adding them in very detailed and very correct. Like, we want to make sure everything lines up. Now, with your family, that's our second tab here. The family and educational background helps us get some insight on really about your family life. So about your parents, who you live with, maybe the marital status of your parents. We'll also ask about the education level of your family to determine whether or not you're a 1st-generation student. Ask about your siblings. This might help us know if you have anybody else in college around you, or if you're a legacy of some sort at a particular school. And then we also, if you did any foreign school, you can indicate it here. So this captures a lot about your home life and family life, as well as the educational background. Our next slide tells a little bit about education. So this is where you enter the unique names of all the schools you've attended. So maybe you transferred after your sophomore year, you'll be able to indicate that here. And that's good because when I review your transcript, I'm also going to see that you switched schools on your transcript. So this helps back that up. Let's see also about any summer college courses you might have taken, maybe a dual enrollment course, anywhere. Yeah, basic general rule of thumb is anywhere and everywhere you've taken classes, make sure you put it here, because we're going to want a full spread of all the ways that you've enhanced your academic experience. Also, if you've taken a gap year, I know that some students graduate from high school and then take a year off and are applying late. So if that maybe is your case, make sure you indicate that here, or if you even plan to take a gap year, you can indicate that here as well. All right, my next one is a little bit about testing. So you can submit, any of your test scores you've taken, SAT, ACT, past dates, future dates you're planning to take. A lot of students would ask me that when USD required the SAT and ACT, which by the way, we don't require it anymore. We are a test blind university. So when students were saying like, oh, your application deadline is December 15th, and I'm actually going to take the March SAT, I'd say that's totally fine. Just make sure that you indicate it on this piece of the application. We want to see that you're planning to take it because that might help us wait for improved test scores to come by in case you submit them. A lot of schools, you should ask if they do require the SAT or ACT when their latest testing date is. Maybe March is too late and they'll only take through February. So this is a good way to be in connection and communication with your specific admission counselors. Next, we have activities. This is the fun one. This is where you tell me anything and everything you've done, right? So a lot of schools are pushing for a holistic review. What this means is that we're getting to see all the aspects of you, not just your grades, not just your letters of recommendation, but the things that really make you you, that make you shine, as we say. So list any talents you have. Maybe you play football, you're the choir president, you're head of key club, you wash your grandma's windows every weekend. Like these are all the things that we want to know about you to show how you've been involved with different hobbies, sports, maybe you volunteered. And every school is going to have a different kind of way of wanting to see you. So for USD, we are always looking for change makers. We're really into social justice. We're really into volunteer work. We're into the ways that you've socially impacted your local and global communities, like made it better. So as you think about the schools you're applying to through the Common Application, maybe you can find a way to make these activities really reflect the traits that they want to see. You can list up to 10 activities. So it's a pretty full spread, but I know y'all are involved in so much stuff that maybe you want to pick your top 10, or you can even sometimes submit, an additional document that lists your full list of activities if you have 20 or 30 of them, whatever it is. But we really push you to be thorough and make sure that you are considering the type of school you're applying to as you put in those activities as well. All right, let's see. The next we have the essay, right? The dreaded essay, which I think is actually pretty fun. I'll tell you, as an admission counselor, I loved reading those essays. It was so wonderful to get more information than just what a bunch of bullet points could tell me, a bunch of activities could tell me. I really wanted to hear how you thought, how you articulated your life and saw the world around you. And so you're able to submit this 650 word maximum essay. So at least 250 words, maximum to 650 words. Essay that you actually get to select from a list of prompts. I think there's 6 or 7. This one says 7, but depending on which one you choose, you'll be able to put your text in there and give me that that padding on your application. I think there's a slide on here that's going to talk about tips for writing the essay, but one thing I want to tell you is that I've read applications for 5 years, and still the essay that stands out the most to me in all of the applications I've ever read was a student who wrote about their drive to and from school every day. So I think sometimes we always think, oh, I got to have that big, I didn't make the varsity team and now I'm, this is how I was challenged and this time I'm overcoming it. That's great. I will tell you, sometimes those essays don't have to be quite as much like a movie, like climax and conflict and then resolution. I really loved this student's essay about their drive to school because it taught me how they thought. It taught me what they considered, what was important to them, and really how they would show up at my school if they were admitted to USD. So broaden your options, and we'll talk a little bit more about those essay topics and types as we go through. But my biggest recommendation here is that bottom bullet point. Paste in your text, or use Google Drive. I wouldn't necessarily type in directly here because sometimes, technology gets wonky and you might lose some of your text. So write it somewhere else and then paste it in at the end, or use that Google Drive feature. Okay, my next one. Oh, a little bit about personal essays, that moment when you have no idea what to write about. Amen. I've been there so many times. I get you. So here are the tips that I mentioned earlier. First of all, your job's not to be a mind reader, okay? So don't ever think that you need to understand all the intricacies and know exactly the mood that your admission counselor is going to be in when they read. We're looking to hear about you, what you want us to know about you. So choose something you're passionate about, choose something that you can write way more than 650 words on, and then refine it, bring it down, condense it into that 650 word essay that gives us the meat of why that's important to you. Don't underestimate this every day. That's what I was mentioning with the drive to school. No topic's too small. So if it's important to you, write about it. Be focused, provide depth. I'll tell you, this is a really important one. I've read a lot of essays and workshops with students where by the time they're finished with their introduction, they're trying to write about like their passion for piano. By the time they're finished with their introduction and how they learned about piano, it's already 800 words, but I've not learned anything about the skills they've developed, what that's taught them about being in school, about what that's taught them about themselves, how that enhances my community. So be focused, think about the meat and the exact things you want us to know about you rather than writing just to write. Show, don't tell. Tell us why this is important. Let your voice be heard. And then finally, yes, proofread. If I could put that all over on every slide, I'll tell you, it's tough when I receive an essay and there is a day of the week that's not capitalized, or an improper comma after a sentence instead of a period. Like, those are the things that give me a moment of pause. And that would never be the thing that says, okay, the student can't come to USD, but it does give me pause. And I think my question is always, how much effort have they put into this essay? Because I can pretty much say that that's the amount of effort they'll put into a college essay. So make sure you're taking your time, think about the details, and really, really proofread. Those details really count. All right. So I also wanted to have a specific slide just about the COVID-19 disruption, right? So Common App actually gives you a space in the additional information subsection to talk about your experience during COVID. This is, a big reality and a big thing that our students took on, and that looks different for every person. So if you're wanting and feeling comfortable to share more about your COVID experience, maybe it was, some activities that you weren't able to be a part of. Maybe it's something that was going on in your family life or your home life that made it particularly challenging. Maybe it's the place where you found a new passion of yours. Like, I love baking now, right? Because I was able to bake during COVID. I had more time at home, and that's like a therapeutic experience for me. So maybe I wanted to tell you about how important baking is to me. COVID it's changed a lot for a lot of us. So we want to be sensitive to this. I'm so grateful to Common App for putting this in there. And I can speak for USD specifically. We want to know the context, so don't be shy with that. I mentioned earlier a little bit about member questions, right? These are the ones that come specifically to USD. So these help us as a specific institution know more about you that's not included in the general Common Application. It's our way of noticing how you've researched us and why you're a good fit. The writing, the cap of words is a little bit different. So the word count might be shorter, 650 words for the general essay. I think at USD, ours is 350 words maximum. Other schools are going to be different amounts. So be sure to pay attention to how much they're asking you for. They usually offer a suggestion, and then really dig into their website, dig into maybe if you have like a friend who went there or know an alum, or maybe your counselors can talk a little bit about why you might be a good fit for that school and how you can answer that thoroughly, and recognize what sort of environment you'd get into if you go to that school. All right, I've got a few more slides, and these ones are pretty important. So this one here is a lot about FERPA. So recommendations and FERPA. There's a lot of text on this slide, but it's important, I promise. So this is very important to fill out, and in a timely manner. You actually can't submit your application until at least there's a name entered on this site. So that's how important it is. It's not gonna let you submit your application. You're able to invite counselors or teachers, folks who might be able to recommend you, maybe it's academically, or even some students are submitting extra letters of recommendation from a coach or a youth group leader or an internship supervisor. I don't know, anybody who can talk about your determination, your grit, and why you're going to show up well for that school. So you can put their information there. And then you can actually track kind of the status of that letter of recommendation. So you'll see status of submitted or downloaded means that the recommendation has been submitted online. But if it doesn't say submitted or downloaded, maybe you need to follow up with that recommender again and just say, hey, Austin, want to make sure you saw my email. Can you submit that shortly? These are really helpful for me in admissions because I get to know about who you are from you, but also now I get to have an outside view, someone who can really talk about you objectively. And I'm sure they're just going to want to gush about you because you've made such an impact on them. So choose people wisely, think through thoroughly, and make sure you follow up with them. And then finally, FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. This is optional whether or not you accept it. At USD, we recommend that you accept that waiver. And it shows the reason why is because it helps us see your integrity, allows us to know that these letters of recommendation submitted by your recommenders weren't at all written by you, right? They were written specifically by that recommender, and it was from a candid, very honest point of view. So we recommend that you accept the waiver. It's up to you again, but that is the FERPA piece. So make sure that you are paying attention to that. All right, a few more. I'm going to jump on to one of the final steps, reviewing it and then payment. So my recommendation is that you always have someone else look over your application before you submit it. I will tell you, I've written enough essays and applications and job description applications as well, where I think it's all perfect. And then I have someone else come in and look and they're like, did you notice in the second line, you actually have a typo here? So practice some humility, take it on and let someone else read it over. I know sometimes that can be scary, but I really believe the people around you are going to want you to succeed. So have that fresh pair of eyes come in. You can also use the print preview option, a nice little tech hack for anybody out there that'll put it all on one page for you. So it makes it simpler to scroll through. And then you can pay or need to pay here unless that fee waiver piece we'll bring in here too, but credit card, e-check, College Board, ACT, college fee waiver. So there are lots of ways. You'll select the one that you want and then you will process through their Common App site. So be thoughtful of that. And I would say another tip that's not on here, don't wait until the application deadline date to submit that, because sometimes those payment options can get a little wonky and procrastinating really gets us sometimes. So make sure you are taking your time with that. All right. You submitted it. When you do it, a big thing is look for this big green check mark or some sort of celebration. This is going to let you know that you submitted it, that it's all good to go. Once you do that, I mean, on our side, it's really easy because it just gets pulled basically into my computer screen. We'll send you an additional confirmation like, hey, thanks for applying. We're reviewing your application. You might even have an online portal that's offered to you where you can track the status of your application. And then, yeah, our tip number 5. So hold on to your portal username and your passwords, because schools will start sending you like, hey, this is how you log in to see if you've been admitted. Make a sticky note, create a Google Sheet, whatever it is, and keep those handy to make sure that you can check those back when you need. All right, 3 more slides. Just some general tips. Make sure that you are sorting by deadline or by university name, but this suggests deadline on your dashboard to make sure you're on pace. Make sure that you are aware, actually, you can revise the Common App after you submit. So you can, sometimes that looks like emailing your admission counselor, but you are allowed unlimited edits to the essay after your first application submission. So you actually have a little bit of room just in case you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, man, I forgot to put this part in. So know that there's a little bit of grace there. Also, what we can see, I want you to know that we can actually track you and see if you've started your application, if it's been submitted, and then we're able to see once it has been submitted, kind of how you're faring in our pool. So if you have questions, this is really just to let you know that we're here to help you, that we're able to track your process too, and we're meant to be a support for you. All right, and then I think my last slide, yeah. Questions. I know that was a ton of information. I'm going to bring you back over here so I can actually look at you here. I know that was so much info, even for me. That was like 27 minutes of me talking. So I'm all ears for questions. I'm not sure if any of our counselors have questions or students want to, but the Common App is meant to be helpful and friendly to you, meant to make things easier. So if it's feeling complicated, let us know, reach out. We're just here to support you in that process.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? This is a great opportunity to ask any questions about the Common App. I know there was, like Austin said, a lot of different parts to the application, a lot of information that he went over. So if you want to unmute and ask a question, feel free to, or if you feel more comfortable, you can type it into the chat and we can answer questions that way. So we'll just give you guys a few minutes to submit any questions. One question I have is about SAT, ACT. So with all the private schools, and especially being in different states as well, because here in California, it's been hard for some students to actually go to a test. They registered for them and then they were canceled. And so I don't know if you just recommend that they contact their schools individually to check in on what their requirements are for SAT, ACT.
Yeah, that's a good question. And this does make things a little bit confusing because everybody's kind of moving at their own pace, right? So like USD, we were test optional and then we were test blind. We're still test blind, so we don't require it, but maybe some of our partner schools or folks might be making up their mind still. So yes, I think reaching out to your specific admission counselor at whichever school it is a great way not only to get that information, but in admissions, like we really want to connect with you all as students. You're the fun part. You're the part that we get to learn more about you and understand. So just getting to chat with you, whether it's on the phone, via email, and have that name in our mind once again could be a great thing to make sure you're known by your admission counselor. So yeah, reach out to them directly or check their website. Oftentimes we're putting that front and center because we want to make sure it's easy to understand.
Okay, thank you.
What type of colleges does the Common application apply to?
Yeah, so it's really private schools as the main. So USD being one of them. I know like UC, CSU still have their individual application. So their Common App is primarily private schools. Good question, Grayson. Thanks for that.
Yeah, you can go on the Common App website and you can search a school and see if it's available through that service. Majority of the schools are on there. I think there's over 600, or now it might even be 800 private schools are on Common App. So I would say majority are on there. So I would just go on and search. And then the CSU system and the UC system have their own application as well. Okay, we have a couple of questions in the chat. So
Thank you.
Yes, we're recording this presentation and we'll post it, I believe in Canvas or on the website. So if you want to email Miss Jamie Brown in the Titan Center, if you want access to the presentation, she can let you know where it'll be posted. Okay, there's another question. Maybe Austin, you can answer that. What are the essay topic, or what are the essay topic ideas?
Yeah, and I think that pairs well with the other one of what were some other essays that stood out to you. These are all such good questions. And I think I'm going to go back to this slide just in case. Let's see, back to kind of the essay writing tips. When you're picking an essay topic, so again, I really want to emphasize no essay topic's too small. I will tell you that I had a student talk about their time on a ski lift for one of their essays. That stands out to me. I remember a student writing about, she was describing her family. She was looking at a picture, a photo, while she was writing her essay, and she was describing how each person was positioned, how that interacted with their relationships with each other. So really about her family dynamic and her background. I have students that write about the ways they celebrate their family's heritage through family meals and gatherings. I have students who talk about, not making it onto that dream internship or not making it into that athletic team that they thought they'd be. And instead of being in varsity, they're now JV, and now they're the captain of JV and they're taking that on in stride. I have students that write about a nonprofit that they've started in Africa to bring, women who can't access water, clean water. So there are so many things, but to me, the topic is not what determines whether you are, should be admitted to USD. It's a whole collection of things, but really what I'm looking for is how your mind works, right? It's how you articulate. It's how you bring up and talk about something that's clearly important to you. So think a little bit less about that broad topic and think more like, what is something I could write 5,000 words on? And it's going to be a challenge for me to bring it into 650 words, because that's where I get that packed, full, robust essay that clearly has meaning and impact to you. And I'll be able to feel that as well when I read it.
Perfect. Thank you. So there's another question about, will transcripts be sent automatically to colleges as part of the school report from counselors, or will they need to be sent separately? That's a great question. So every student needs to invite their school counselor to their Common Application. So we have access to your profile, and we will upload a transcript on your behalf. And we will also upload a mid-year report, which is a transcript after first trimester grades have been reported. The student is responsible to send the final transcript, which is at the end of the year, because you are sending one transcript to the school that you are going to be attending. So counselor will send the initial transcript and the mid-year transcript, and then student is responsible to send final transcript.